Please take your seats. The program will begin shortly. Thank you. Please take your seats. We will begin shortly. Thank you.
Earthshot community, please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Global Head of External Relations, Kevin Sheekey.
Thank you for everyone being here today. We find ourselves inside the City of London, what we call the Square Mile. It's the birthplace of modern finance. It's also the capital where money has flowed from for centuries, from medieval guilds to today's global markets. I am honored to be a freeman, as they call it, of this city, a title dating back to the 13th century. It originally granted the right to trade, a few other perks that are less frequently invoked today as well. As a freeman, I am told I have the right to walk my sheep across London Bridge. I have the right to be taken home by the police if found drunk in public, and should things go terribly wrong, to be hung with a silk rope. It has occurred to me that if I'm going to use these privileges, I should use them in that order. But today is not about tradition, it's about transition. I have had the privilege of working with my boss, Mike Bloomberg, on efforts to harness climate finance in service of climate action, from SASB and TCFD, which helps investors assess material climate risk, to GFANS, which is mobilizing trillions of dollars for climate capital, to NZDPU, which is providing a free public database to investors, to the public, and to the media to track climate progress. But the effort I am most inspired by began with a conversation back in 2009 when Jason Knopf, who's sitting in the front row, came to see us with an idea from Prince William. The idea became, as we all know, the Earthshot Prize. In a world that often feels divided, Prince William is one of the very rare public figures who can bring people together not around politics, but around purpose. The innovators here today were chosen because they bring a clarity of vision. You have teams that can execute, because innovation is rarely a solo act, and you're thinking about capital not just as fuel, but the right kind of fuel. Our job today here, and since 2009, is to back you. And scaling any venture starts with scaling yourself by learning, by delegating, and by amplifying your impact. Earthshot is not just a prize. It's a bet on people like the people in this room. It's a bet on bold ideas backed by brave teams and smart capital that can change the course of history. So let me thank Prince William for his leadership, and thank you all for your commitment in being here today. And speaking of change makers, it is my great honor to hand over the podium now to Tokunboh Ishmael, founding trustee of the Earthshot Prize and co-founder of Athelia Capital. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a free woman, but maybe not with the same privileges. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you to Bloomberg Philanthropies for partnering with us on the event today and being such advocates of investing in our finalists and portfolio of innovations. We currently have over 50 solutions from the Earthshot Prize portfolio on Launchpad, where we are catalyzing investment into climate innovation. And from where I sit as an investor focused on inclusive and sustainable finance, what excites me the most is the passionate drive for innovation. And in addition to that, the idea that we no longer need to sacrifice financial returns for impact. These go hand in hand, and we're seeing many solutions that seek to that. So we're closing the gap between impact and investability. They're no longer trade-offs, and the most resilient, scalable climate solutions are increasingly the ones that are inclusive by design and commercially viable by default. So we're seeing the proven track records. Many of you have met our finalists, and what we need to do now is come together to give them the financial support and the mentoring and business support that enables them to scale. Today, we look forward to hearing from two of our alumni, NatureMetrics and Notpla, whose stories of scale we hope will inspire you to engage urgently, open your wallets urgently, with optimism to create more impact. But first, let me welcome up our principal, Prince William, for his remarks.
Thank you, Tox, and welcome everyone today. What we do here today, together, is of the utmost importance. Collectively, we have signed up to a global commitment to protect 30% of land and sea by 2030. This commitment is our best chance of reversing the damage done to our planet and restoring its well-being. But 2030 is just 5 years away, and only 17% of land and just 3% of the ocean has been fully protected. Climate and nature-based solutions are the foundation of long-term security, stability, and prosperity. More than half of the global GDP depends on nature. With the natural world in desperate need of protection and restoration, we must back the initiatives that will have the greatest impact. The solutions that regenerate the natural world and offer positive market returns also boost economic opportunities. And this is where you all come in. I can say that confidently, as founder of the Earthshot Prize, I'm lucky enough to meet the innovators and change makers who are working on the most exciting ideas and initiatives to build a better future for our planet. But they cannot do it alone. Ideas and initiatives need strong backing if they are to scale and realize their incredible potential. And capital, delivered at the right time, in the right way, is the difference between their failure and their success. The even better news is that these initiatives aren't just good for our natural world. They are also good long-term investments, offering huge potential. The Earthshot Prize finalists are proof of this, to give just 3 examples. Earlier this year, 2024 finalist NatureMetrics successfully raised $25 million in its first Series B funding to develop pioneering biodiversity monitoring tools and bring them to even more organisations and governments around the world. Only this month, 2021 winner Coral Vita announced it had closed over $8 million in Series A funding to advance its mission to restore degraded reefs and regenerate ocean health. And just last week, 2023 finalists, Colorifics, reached a first close of a Series B2 round of $18 million to transform textile dyeing without petrochemicals. This will take them from pilot production to global commercial manufacturing. So you see, there are plenty of groundbreaking investment opportunities that are successfully raising capital to expand their impact. Rather than simply accepting the status quo, we need to back many more if we are to close the gap to 2030. I know that this is not a one-way road. We must understand what investors need for more capital to flow. This is why events like the one here today are so important, to open up new connections between innovation and finance, to build better understanding and stronger partnerships to achieve our goals together. Today, I ask you not to retreat. Now is the moment to look forward. Look forward to investments that hedge against climate risk and provide a pathway to innovation, profit, and resilience. This is a huge untapped opportunity and one I'm passionate and excited about. Let's make what we do here today together really count. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Francine Lacqua, and I'm really thrilled to be hosting our next two conversations, which we hope will inspire everyone in the room and beyond to find a solution, but also starting to collaborate together to scale everything at once. First up, we'll be discussing what innovators seek from their investment partners beyond capital. Please welcome to the stage James Marshall, Chief Executive of Berge Bulk and Kibo Invest, Andrew Law, Chief Executive Officer, Chairman of Caxton Associates, and the 2022 Earthshot winner Rodrigo García González, Chief Executive Officer of Notpla, who are creating sustainable, biodegradable packaging solutions from seaweed and plants. So thank you so much for joining us. Rodrigo, I'm so happy because I've had this. Okay, it's a little like flask vial thing with olive oil in it, and it hasn't burst. It's been in my pocket for an hour, but this is what you're doing. You're basically doing, this is out of seaweed, so it's good. It's not plastic. It's good for the environment.
That's correct. We try to replace plastic packaging, single-use plastic packaging, with seaweed. We do that in different forms and different formats, from little edible bubbles or edible packaging. This is a ginger shot. Cheers. To a bit more industrial applications. So we coat, for example, cardboard, and we use it in different things, like stadiums. So we are on 50 stadiums now with Compass Group. In IKEA, in the canteens of IKEA now, they use this for takeaway, and in many other different businesses.
I love this because this is what it's all about. So, James, Kibo Invest has invested in 3 of the Earthshot Prizes finalists so far, Amped Energy, Enso, and Notpla. So what do you see in this space and actually these companies as good investment opportunities?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you very much for having me. And, once again, it's amazing to see the positive impact Earthshot's having. Maybe just to put a little bit of context, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I set up a business 20 years ago when we ship commodities around the world. But I've always been very, very conscious that, we have a big footprint. So since the start, I would say I was obsessed with trying to reduce our footprint. I call it a 4-pronged strategy of attack, and I use the sort of war metaphor because I do think we are a war on climate change, and we need to go sort of all out on it. So we've had a very conscious idea to invest in startups which can help us decarbonize our shipping, and we have a range of them. But then, on top of that, we wanted to actually sort of mitigate the carbon that we still emit, and so have looked at all sorts of different ways of planting trees, nature-based solutions to companies such as Earthshot have highlighted. And so I suppose it's a space that I know well. We know that it's absolutely critical, but fundamentally we see it as a good investment. Climate change is here. We know it. We're blasting through 1.5. We know that it's baked in for the future. So as a mega trend, we can talk about investment and trends. We have, health, we're aging, but I think climate is a trend which is happening. So it becomes a sensible investment as well as a critical one. So when I look at the different companies, I think they're all addressing these trends. So, at some stage we're going to replace plastic with seaweed alternatives. Enso, which is making green tires, we have to replace green tires. Amped, which is the other company, is replacing diesel generators with a kind of electric alternative generator. This is going to happen. Yep. So the time is to act now rather than wait. On top of that, these are amazing entrepreneurs. And when you see them, you're inspired by them. We know that they can pivot. They know that they can handle the problems of early stage startups. So, we really see it as a great opportunity, a way to make a good return, but also, really have an impact on the climate.
And Rodrigo, so you met, first of all, a lot of your investors through Earthshot, but what do you look for an investor beyond capital?
Yeah, but maybe instead of using the analogy of war, using the analogy of team, and I think Prince William mentioned it on Tuesday, that there needs to be a team effort. I think we all are in the same team, right? And you as an innovator have a certain position, the investor with the capital have another position, the corporate with the scale, and everything needs to work together. It's almost like a team Earth, and everyone have their own shot. And we know the match is finished in 5 years, and we need to score, right? We are quite well behind. So you need to And it's not easy, so you will need to shot a lot of times. And I think everyone needs to kind of like put their part and kind of like we're all Team Earth, so it's what needs to be aligned there. And I know that the investors' position as well is to multiply their capital and to kind of like, we are a for-profit business as well, but we need to know that even before that, we are all Team Earth.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm not sure whether I should qualify you as a goalkeeper or who you want to be in this team, but you know, you lead a major hedge fund, and you also back solutions through philanthropy. So how can you convince more people to be strategic investors in these?
Yeah, I think the philanthropic angle is an interesting one, because if I look back at my 12 years where I've been involved in a meaningful way in philanthropy, it's been about me looking for ideas which are scalable, which governments don't do or don't choose to do, where we can measure impact and then use that impact result to sell it to other trusts or the government or others to run with the ball on a much bigger scale. And that can start regionally, it can start with cohorts. I think when we look at impact investing, it's about taking that to commercial. Some would say commercial viability. I would say it's about it not being unviable, because virtue will always make people choose a product if it's the same price or nearly the same price as the other one. The problem we all have is that many technological innovations just take so many decades to work. If you look at LED lights, invented in the 20s, didn't come until the 70s. Lithium-ion batteries, invented in the 70s, not in the 90s. But in both those examples, it was about the consumerism aspect of those which really allowed them to scale up. And that's why I personally invested in Notpla, because it's part of everybody's everyday life. And if anything's going to stand a success on its own 2 feet, it's something that touches everybody. We have a saying at work that rules, regulations and subsidies really matter in terms of allowing things to work, and that's always true to some extent, but consumerism is the other main leg, and that's what I'm excited about, and that's how things are going to become scalable. And in terms of how we get more people to do it, we need successes. Success has 1,000 fathers, and that's why I'm so excited about Earthshot, because they are going to have some of those success stories and winners, and that's what's going to push everybody in this room to do more and to emulate that.
Yeah, and as you're saying, I mean, once you have funding, then it's about adoption, it's about scalability. So how do you see this? How do you see corporate engagement contributing to successful scaling so that it really changes what we're living through?
Yeah, look, I mean, we talk a lot about funding, and all of these companies, really need funding. So that is a very big part of the corporate. But I think also the support. I mean, I think what is kind of disappointing in a sense in the last couple of years is that we've rode back a bit on our commitments, and I think corporates, really need to step up now and focus it. I mean, again, Earthshot is a fantastic example of focusing the issues, but I think the corporate has a responsibility to, show that it works, to actually prove the concept, but also help encourage everyone else to join. So, look, it's a risky time to invest. It's actually a fantastic time to invest today, but it's certainly, riskier to do nothing. So I think it's, if anyone in this room is sitting on the fence, this is the time to jump off it and get investing. I think there's some great opportunities out here.
Yeah, and to both of you really quickly, what's the secret to successful scaling? Rodrigo?
I think it's teamwork, right? Like from the corporate, not only upstream, but downstream as well. So now we are starting to work quite a lot with big paper mills, for example, that they have this huge scale, and every little change takes them a lot of effort.
It's about having the facts and figures of impact, and it's about selling it, of which a great example sits on my right. You've got to be out there telling the story.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here and being on this panel. Thank you. Now, next up, we'll be talking about how and why nature has become central to climate action. So please join me in welcoming on stage 2024 Earthshot finalist Dimple Patel, Chief Executive Officer of NatureMetrics, who turn nature into data, and Eduardo Mufarej, Co-Chief Investment Officer at Just Climate. So join me. Thank you. We heard it in the previous panel about how important it is to have all the steps, find the money, and then make sure that it's scalable with the help of corporates. Eduardo, climate tech is still relatively undercapitalized compared to other climate verticals. So what made NatureMetrics stand out as an investment worthy in this space?
First, it's a pleasure to be here. And the reflection that I'd like to bring is that as investors, we need to stop taking nature for granted. We really need to make sure that we're backing solutions that will help us to address the profound nature crisis that we're going through. The reason why we engage with NatureMetrics, and it's a wonderful company, and we feel very privileged to be partnering with them, is because we believe that in the next 10 years, we need to be measuring more of biodiversity. And I think if we put a reflection in the room, I think we can easily come to that conclusion. We will be measuring more. The question is, how effectively can we do that? And this is a company that has operated for the past 10 years, coming from an amazing group of scientists based out of Surrey, and that did an amazing job in building the biggest biodiversity data lake with the greatest level of organization. And our vision was, can we transform that science into a solution that companies, global companies, can purchase and become in partnership with? And the team has done a fantastic job in creating the backbone to establish that foundation. So we came in and we led the Series B round of NatureMetrics with an ambition to partner with this amazing management team and help to build the foundation for a business that now is on the pathway to scalability. And we found the right ingredients, and in a market that we have a very clear understanding that is going to be growing and scaling over the course of the next few years.
And Dimple, carbon has, for example, multiple markets, right? And we know this, it's established, it's quite imperfect, but we have a price. Nature still doesn't. So what will it take to give biodiversity the same financial relevance?
Good question. So a lot of people think about, when we talk about climate, they think about carbon. And that creates, there are a lot of frameworks there that people are familiar with, and intrinsically they want to then apply that to nature, but we have to remember that nature is so much more complex than carbon. We talk about single carbon metrics. Actually, with nature, there's multiple metrics, and we need solutions that embrace the full complexity of biodiversity, but simplify it down into something that's usable. And when we think about nature, what we're really talking about are ecosystem services. So all the services that we depend on as an economy, everything that $44 trillion is dependent on. So we're talking about the quality of water, we're talking about soil health, we're talking about flood risk. All of this actually can be measured in terms of risk. And we have very well-established risk markets. There are a lot of models out there that are thinking about climate risk, how they price that for insurance, for example. And those are the frameworks that we should be carrying across to nature. Because once we quantify those risks and we understand then what the knock-on impact of that risk is, you're able to get to a price. And I think what's really important in terms of our solution is we're using incredibly high integrity data to get there. So we think about nature data in the same way that you would think about financial data. And that's really, really important when we're connecting the two.
Does there need to be a trade-off? Eduardo, how do you balance financial returns and impact in a solution like NatureMetrics, where ecosystem protection may take years to translate into a measurable outcome?
I believe that this is a false dilemma, to be frank. I think impact and financial returns, they have all the conditions to go hand in hand, and you should do one in detriment of the other. Otherwise, you're not back in a sustainable business model. The reflection around NatureMetrics is essentially a very robust solution, way more efficient than the incumbent solutions that have existed over the course of the last 20 years. So if you think about, if you were a corporate, the solution that NatureMetrics provides cost about a tenth of how much the other solutions, the traditional solutions, have normally cost. So it is highly efficient, highly scalable, with a huge degree of integrity. So the adoption, when you think about the adoption and the impact that the adoption can bring, they are very clear. More companies are going to be able to purchase their solution because it's more efficient. They will measure their baseline of biodiversity footprint. And if you measure well, you can act upon. Because if we can't measure, we don't know where to start. And that's where I believe that the impact of their solution is going to be exponentialized as more customers and more corporations adopt their product.
Dimple, why now? So was there something like something in your heart or your gut that said this is now the right bet on biodiversity and nature when so many others were focused on carbon?
So we're keeping the tone optimistic, but we are at a critical turning point in terms of biodiversity loss. There is not a lot of time left for us to actually take action. And the thing we have to remember with nature is, it's not like carbon. You cannot just invest in removal technologies that will, take thousands of tons of carbon out the atmosphere and we're able to offset it away. With nature, it takes you an hour a day to cut something down. It will take you 500 years for that to recover. And so when we think about nature, it's not just restoration. Restoration is really important, but it's about mitigation. It's about protection. And actually, the longer that we leave that, the more damage that we're doing, and the further away we are from that recovery point. So I'd say that is the key piece. And I think now what I've definitely got from London Climate Week is there are less conversations about whether nature is important and whether there's a business case. That definitely feels unquestionable. So we at least have an alignment in terms of sentiment, in terms of prioritization. When we have that collective action and we have the solutions that we need to then deliver that action, that's a really critical turning point.
What about regulation? What role should regulation play in all of this?
I think regulation can play a role, because without regulation, without the push for adoption, this becomes a nice to have, an optional role. And at the end of the day, the impact that you can generate through the lack of regulation is substantially diminished. So I do believe that regulation should play a more important role and push companies to understand their biodiversity footprint, their nature risk, and as a result, they can address with solutions, with actions to mitigate their climate impact. And without regulation, this becomes a voluntary effort, and through voluntary efforts, I think we will depend on more time than we have.
Dimple, you think regulators are sitting up and taking notice?
I think regulation has really accelerated in the nature space over the last 2 years. You have TNFD, which was launched in 2023. From a brand awareness perspective, that was amazing for nature. It definitely made corporates sit up and actually ask questions around what role does nature play in terms of their broader sustainability strategy. I think where regulation can then create a lot of ambiguity is which metrics, what should we be reporting on? Do we need to wait for that to be clarified before we take a step forward? And I think we've definitely got everybody's attention. It's now kind of really simplifying how they take that first step. And I think once they take that first step and they're able to see the return, that will follow. But I think regulation is very, very important in terms of actually triggering action, getting everybody's attention, and no doubt will play a part in enforcing it going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you both for a wonderful conversation. Thank you. So inspiring. Well, thank you all to our panelists today. What fascinating, incredible conversations that we've seen from scaling up, from some of the solutions on biodiversity and nature. Now, I hope you all feel inspired and ready for the next portion of the day, which is our matchmaking session. Now, today's program is called Investing for Impact, and you're all here because you can do just that. You should have received an email with a list of the 37 solutions that are here today, or you can also scan the QR code up here on the screen. Now, we have over 100 of the leading investment funds, grant makers, corporates, and family offices in the room. And in addition to the finalists and winners that have a white lanyard, so you can spot them very easily, we have also invited several scalable solutions from the Earthshot Prizes pipeline of over 2,000 nominations. Now, some are already part of our other programs, such as the 91 Accelerator in support of the Earthshot Prize. So you're here to make deals happen, right? This is what you need to remember in your mind, in whichever sense of the word actually applies to you. So let's get networking. I'm excited to see what this group can actually achieve here today all together. Just a final announcement. After the event, you will receive a link with an invitation to access the Launchpad platform. Now, this is crucial because it allows you to browse the full portfolio, download decks, request intros, but also receive email updates. So this is provided free of charge as part of the Earthshot Prize's mission to take climate solution to scale. So let's go. Join us all in helping scale these incredible solutions, and have a great day, everyone.